Slam Diego Padres. Do they have the best rotation in the game? Are they potentially the best team in the game? Find out in the next episode of Sideline Sports Podcast. Welcome to Sideline Sports Podcast. If you're not on the sideline, it's not Sideline Sports Podcast. Looks like Major League Baseball free agency definitely speeding up, along with a lot of trade transactions. But I'm Alex Naveja from Sideline Sports Podcast, the host of the podcast. And if you're not on the sideline, it's not Sideline Sports Podcast, a source of all of your SoCal sports news. And of course, with me today, she was here not too long ago, trying to jock my style a little bit this week. But Megan Garcia, soon to be the host of Who's Invited to the Carne Asada podcast. Still waiting up to see that because I want to be that first viewer, first subscriber. But none other than Megan Garcia. Megan, thank you so much for coming back onto the podcast.
Hey, Alex, thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure to have you on, Megan. And I know we have a lot to talk about as far as what's been going on with the San Diego Padres, or as you guys like to call them, the Slam Diego Padres now, with first a couple of weeks ago, them coming up with news of acquiring Blake Snell, that lefty that just gave the Dodgers a hard time. And it just looked like the Padres just wanted to get the pitcher that gave the Dodgers the most hard time. You know, the Padres definitely watched the World Series, and they were definitely already scouting Blake Snell there. Then they acquired Darvish. Wasn't even a week later that they acquired Darvish after finding out that the Cubs were trying to shed some of that salary so they can be able to maybe potentially re-sign some guys and bring back some of that key infield players like Javi Baez, trying to bring back Anthony Rizzo, and just, it looks like they're still trying to figure some things out. But when you heard the news about these two acquisitions from the Padres, what were your thoughts immediately?
I was so shocked because it is so hard to pull off one blockbuster trade, and they somehow pulled off two within a week. You know, this really changes what San Diego is going to look like for the next couple years because Darvish and Snell are under contract through the 2023 season, so they're going to be a team to watch. And I think the NL pennant goes through the West, and it's going to come down to the Dodgers or the Padres.
Hands down. That already makes it the best 1-2 punch. And the Padres did have to get rid of some pretty big prospect packages and had to really dig deep into that farm system and really had to give up some guys. But at the same time, they're still saying that their farm system is still one of the best in the game. And that's still crazy. They still managed to keep some of their top guys that are almost major league ready. So that just blows your mind. Like, if you sit back and you think, they just got two of the greatest pitchers in the game, if you think about it, in Darvish and in Blake Snell, and they still have one of the great farm systems. Let that sink in for a second.
Yeah, the Padres have come a long way in the last few years with their farm system. Before 2017, they had one of the lowest ranking farm systems in all of baseball, and then they turned it around so quickly to have one of the best in the last couple of years. And to still go into the 2021 season and still have one of the best going in, probably top 5. And they got all these megastars for pennies. That says a lot for what San Diego's doing in their front office and just the rich farm system that they have, that they were still able to keep a lot of their top prospects, but still, get these big guys to come play with them for the next few years.
Absolutely. They're still going to have a bright future based off of them keeping a lot of their top prospects in their farm system playing over in El Paso. And I'm going to say they're going to be deadly for a long time. They're here to stay. They're here for not just a good time, but they're also here for a long time. Now, we also got the news this week that they got another pitcher to help out on our starting rotation woes in Joe Musgrove. from the Pittsburgh Pirates, having to give up a package of prospects there as well. Now, you already thought it was amazing that they got Darvish and they got Blake Snell. Now to put Musgrove in that package deal, what were your thoughts when you saw that one?
I was pretty shocked. I thought San Diego was done with their trades, with their acquisitions. You know, how can you top getting you Darvish and Blake Snell in one off season? But then they top it off with Joe Musgrove. It's good to see for a player like Musgrove to get out of Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's not winning anytime soon. And then he's headed to San Diego, where they're going to win for a very long time, and they have a shot at the World Series. So this is probably one of the most lethal starting rotations in all of baseball. And you put that in with Machado and Tatis in the lineup, this is a very scary team. So the fact that, you know, San Diego's still able to pull off these trades, it speaks a lot to what their GM is doing back there, and they're hustling teams out of some really good players, and, you know, giving away pennies for them. So it's a really good thing to see San Diego finally winning after a very storied franchise of losing. But this is a really good move for San Diego.
You definitely know that they saved up a lot of the pennies in their little piggy bank that they have there, and just saving up for trying to get that dominant starting rotation. Now, let's take a step back and think of this. Darvish, number 1, Snell, number 2, Musgrove, number 3, Lamet will be 4, and Paddock will be 5. What a starting rotation there for the Padres. Like, wow, I'm just going to let that rotation speak for itself.
And they still have Mike Clevenger, who is on the IL. So he still needs to come in. So they're probably going to have a 6-man rotation eventually with all these starting pitchers. This is a very, very good rotation. I don't think baseball has seen something like this in a really long time, or even at all. This is a really good future for San Diego, and to start out this new chapter where they finally made the playoffs in such a long time. And yeah, sure, they were swept in the NLDS by the eventual World Series champions, but this is a really good way to start a new beginning for them. So this is a very, very deadly lineup.
Deadly lineup, deadly rotation. I mean, I don't think run support's going to be so much of an issue also. I mean, that dominant infield of Machado, Tatis, they have Cronenworth, they have Eric Hosmer, and then they have Nola that's going to be doing the catching for them as well. That outfield of Tommy Pham, Will Myers, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be insane what this Padres team is going to do. And you know what? They're not here to fall short again against the Dodgers, fall in a wild card game, if they even make a wild card game, because they could seriously make a case to being that division leader and stop the Dodgers in those consecutive division titles. And even then, like, they're here for the hardware. They're here, hey, you know, Dodgers want it, we want the next one. You guys are going to take away Los Angeles Dodgers for 2021, and it's going to say San Diego Padres as the 2021 World Series champions.
Yeah, and like the thing is, usually what happens after a team wins the World Series, they have a World Series hangover the next season. So San Diego's in a really good position to capitalize on that hangover with the Dodgers and overtake the NL West. And they have the lineup to prove it. Both Machado and Tatis are projected combined to hit over 60 home runs for the 2021 season. If it's not abbreviated, obviously, if it is abbreviated like the 2020 season was, it's going to be a little bit lower. But they're in a really good position to take the NL West and probably take it for a few more years after that. The Dodgers are probably going to be second fiddle to the Padres, which I think a lot of Dodger fans aren't used to hearing and probably don't want to hear, but that's what the future looks like.
Absolutely. Which brings me into that next question. Can the Padres really stop the Dodgers? Like, do they have, is it enough? When do you say, Padres, we're going in with what we have and we're full send, baby, full send?
You know, I think the 2020 Padres did prove that. I think the Padres really showed to the Dodgers and the rest of baseball that they're not a joke. They're here to play and they're here to win. And they really showed that in 2020 in the regular season. Obviously in the postseason, it didn't play out like that. Maybe the stadium in Arlington had something to do with it. Who knows? But I think 2021 is going to be the year of the Padres, and it's really going to be it's going to be a wake-up call to the Dodgers. They're going to have to make some moves. They also as well have one of the best farm systems in baseball, but they're probably still a couple years out from a lot of those players being at the level where the Padres are. So they need to probably make some smaller moves to keep the Padres at bay. They made a few additions, but they're going to need to do something more and maybe sign a couple more bats that are going to help hit some home runs off of Darvish and Snell.
I think the Dodgers will need some more signings. Kirby Yates is off the market now, but someone needs to replace Kenley Jansen. He is not a credible closer anymore. So I think a signing like Brad Hand would really stabilize the Dodgers all around pitching, with still word and waiting on the veteran presence of David Price to be on that rotation. And of course, now we're hearing about Trevor Bauer, that the Dodgers are really monitoring him and seeing what his moves are going to be. And a potential Trevor Bauer going to the Dodgers, I think that would still keep them. But if you ask me, I still think the Dodgers are still better than the Padres by a hair, not by much. Hear me out why. The Dodgers have used this offseason to rebuild that whole entire bullpen. Let Pedro Valles go. They let Alex Wood go. And they're bringing guys like Brandon Morrow to come back. They traded for Corey Knebel. Also, Jimmy Nelson's going to be coming out of that bullpen as well. Now you just need to find somebody that could be your closer. And whereas the Padres, they still need to focus on that bullpen. I mean, Trevor Rosenthal is still a free agent. So if you're the Padres, do you re-sign Rosenthal, or you're kind of running out of weapons? You know that a Brad Hand reunion probably won't happen, but I still think the Padres need to have a dominant bullpen. And you and I both know bullpens win you championships. Not just a rotation, but bullpens do, because if your starter, let's say the other team scores 5 runs on your starter and he only goes 5-6 innings, you still have another 3-4 innings of game left. So what do you do there if you're the Padres?
I think definitely what's going to help, at least for the NL West, is that the Padres are running out of roster space. So it's probably going to have to be transitioning some of those guys that they have, especially in the minor leagues, and have them be their bullpen guys. That's going to have to be the case. You can only have so many signings in a few months that will fit the roster. And for the Dodgers in this case, because the NL West is just going to come down to the Padres and the Dodgers. The Dodgers need to make some moves, especially for the starting rotation. And someone like Trevor Bauer, who is an established starting pitcher, will help their case. Dustin May and Tony Gonsolin, they're still very new, and you saw them a little shaky in the playoffs, especially down the stretch in the season. Having someone established to go along with Julio Urias, Clayton Kershaw, Walker Buehler will definitely help for the Dodgers. And having them go the distance, maybe go 6 innings, maybe go 7 innings, where their bullpen can come in, someone like Brandon Morrow, who has had a shaky couple seasons since he left the Dodgers. You still have, your other signings that will help the Dodgers in the long run. But for someone like the Padres, I think it's going to have to come down to their minor league guys. They're going to have to come up and throw a couple innings out of the pen and see what they can do from there.
That's the good thing about still having that talented farm system for the Padres. Now, my final question to you, Megan, is who has a better starting rotation now that you have those top 3 guys for the Padres, comparing it to the Dodgers? Because let's be real, this is the 1-2 punch for the best teams in baseball. I know there's the Chicago White Sox making moves. I know the Blue Jays are also making moves too, but I just don't see them having, their rotation is not better than the Dodgers or the Padres. So looking at the best rotation and another rotation, who do you think is that best rotation in baseball, the Dodgers or the Padres?
That's the thing. It's a little bit of a toss-up. Both Darvish and Snell are not expected to have their same 2020 seasons, at least according to Baseball Reference. They're expected to come down to earth a little bit more. Darvish is expected to have a 3.80 ERA for 2021. That's a far cry from his 2.0 ERA that he had in 2020. And so it's a bit of a stretch. I do think it is the Padres though. I think we saw in 2020 that Walker Buehler is starting to have blister problems, kind of like what was the downfall to Rich Hill, were the blisters. So that's going to be a little bit tougher for the Dodgers to. He's really kind of been their number one guy. You know, Clayton Kershaw is getting older. His velocity is down for his fastball and everything else, really. But he's able to pick it back up for 2020, and he seemed like a new pitcher, someone who's brand new, who is older. But I just had to give it to the Padres. They just seem like an overall team. They just seem better, and I think their starting rotation, at least their top three guys, will dominate the Dodgers' top three guys.
Yeah, the top three definitely is. It's gonna be the best in baseball for the Padres. I will say this: I'm going to agree with you that the Padres have the best in the game, but if the Dodgers get David Price for 2021, if he agrees to come back for this season, I will say the Dodgers, because experience is everything. And you look at that starting rotation for the Dodgers, they are not scared. They've already made it to 3 World Series appearances already. And David Price was a dominant part of that World Series run for the Boston Red Sox when he was still with them. And experience goes a long way. And it's all about not fearing your opponent, having that confidence. And I really think that World Series Clayton Kershaw was the best Clayton Kershaw that we've seen in the postseason. So if the Dodgers have officially unleashed the real Clayton Kershaw in the postseason in the World Series. So the Dodgers, their starting rotation has already faced the best with Tampa Bay Rays, and they had such a stacked team, and it was a fun World Series to watch. But this Dodgers starting rotation isn't very far away from the Padres one now, and definitely if the Dodgers do end up getting Trevor Bauer, that's just a stamp of approval. There is no discussion, no cap. Don't tell me that the Padres are still better, because they won't be if they get Trevor Bauer. And if they do get David Price, again, it's going to be the Dodgers.
You do make a good point, and I think the playoff run in 2020 really showed what the Dodgers are capable of. Julio Urias had a really great postseason. It was really great to see him move into that role where the Dodgers, you kind of saw it happen along the way, that the Dodgers gained confidence in him. So I think he has a good 2021 season ahead of him. And like you said, Clayton Kershaw, I think he's doing improved, and he found a way to deal with his mechanics as he's gotten older, and he looked like a better pitcher as well. I think it really just comes down to Walker Buehler and how he can bounce back from those blister issues. If he finds a way to figure those things out, yeah, the Dodgers do have the edge on the Padres. But as of right now, I think where the Padres stand and where the Dodgers stand, I think the edge goes to the Padres.
And we could definitely expect that if there are going to be fans back in baseball, we'll definitely see a little more mustard and brown colored jerseys and unis over at Petco, and gonna overtake Petco Park. I mean, the word always goes around that is a second home for the Dodgers, like Angel Stadium, because Dodger fans always travel really well. But to finish things off, also, Megan, it looks like the Padres still aren't done either. They're still trying to re-sign some of their guys. Jurickson Profar is a name that comes up. They want to re-sign him and bring him back to play over in left field. Almost forgot about Trent Grisham. Earlier we were talking about that outfield, but Grisham playing in right field as well, adding that dominance to that lineup and that run producer that he has and that solid bat that he has as well. He's going to make a name there, and the Padres. So, you know what, we're just going to have to wait and see what these next couple of weeks left of free agency is going to come down to. Still a lot of big names still out there in the free agent market, and just have to say that if the Padres want to be taken serious, they need to do a great job with that bullpen now also. You just solidified your rotation. Now let's finish up with the bullpen.
Yeah, and also another signing that they want to get done, at least that rumors have kind of sort of come up, is Fernando Tatis Jr. They do want to extend him at least for 10 years, which is a really good deal. So if you can lock up with someone like Fernando Tatis, it's going to be a really scary and bright future for the Padres to have Tatis Jr. and Machado in one location in the same infield for a long time.
It'll be nice to see that fat contract. And I already thought Tatis was such a young career. I've already gotten so much done. He's going to be the bright future, and he's going to be the best player in the game someday once Mike Trout is on the decline. It's going to be Tatis. It's going to be that best player. But that's all the time we have left here on Sideline Sports Podcast. We thank you all so much for tuning into this one. If you guys like this episode, please make sure to give a thumbs up. Comment down below, who do you think has the better rotation, the Dodgers or the Padres? I'd also like to hear about what you guys think would be some great signings for Dodgers, Padres, Angels, your favorite SoCal team, whoever it may be. I want to hear all about it, guys. And once again, Megan Garcia coming onto the podcast once again. Thank you so much, Megan.
Thank you, Alex, for having me. I really appreciate it.
And we're still going to wait. Who's going to be invited to the carne asada? I've been waiting and waiting and waiting. My carne asada is just sitting in the fridge waiting for you to say who's invited.
Hey, the guac and the chelas are ready. We just need to get something else, maybe the tortillas, and we're all set to go.
Can't forget about the pico de gallo, the tapatio. Can't forget all of that stuff. So, Megan, when you come out with that podcast, let us know. Be on the lookout for that podcast, guys. It's going to be a great one. And as always, I'm Alex Naveca from Sideline Sports Podcast, signing off from this one. Thank you so much for tuning into this one. And enjoy the rest of NFL playoffs. Enjoy the NBA, NHL, and, of course, the remainder of free agency. Have a good one, guys. Signing off.